Hello, fans of the RPG Fanatic Show. It is I, Carey Martell, the RPG Fanatic. Going to be answering some more questions today. First, before I get into these questions that have been posted to my videos, I have two videos to go through the comments on this time. Before I do that, I want to address one thing. I noticed some people talking about some of my reviews, and there's this discussion about how I define computer RPG. I actually have a video, if you look up here, that explains what is a computer RPG. There's, I don't know why, because I have this video here explaining what a computer RPG is. Why some people think that computer RPG is my way for saying like a PC style RPG, which is more of an archaic term, which I did discuss in the history of JRPG video. It's a bit of an archaic term when you're talking about modern game design, but it definitely applies toward older games made back in the 80s and the 90s. But anyway, the point is this: computer RPG is a genre that basically affects every computer video game that's an RPG, that has RPG mechanics in it. It's not the PC style ones, it's not a WRPG. If it's an RPG and it's on a computer and there's no dungeon master, it's a computer RPG. That means Final Fantasy is a computer RPG. BioWare's Dragon Age is a computer RPG. Fallout is a computer RPG. I mean, the Tales of series, computer RPG, Mega Tens, all computer RPGs. That's the main family genre. Tabletop RPGs, it sounds like Dungeons and Dragons and GURPS and Mutants and Masterminds or something like that. I don't know how better to explain this. I think what confuses some people is that they don't consider a console system to be a computer. It is a computer. A lot of the same hardware that you find in consoles is found in your home PC. I mean, what the hell do you think an Xbox is? It's got an operating system for a reason, buddy. Anyway, I just needed to address that and get that out of the way. Now we're going to dive into the questions. And the first question I have on the first video I made, not the uncensored one. The first question is, I have a question. I was recently diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome by my gastroenterologist, and I heard you had it as well. What brand of adult diapers do you wear? I don't know because I'm new to this. Irritable bowels does not make you lose control of your bowels. It means that what irritable bowels is, most likely, it's an autoimmune disorder where your body is overreacting and having an immune system reaction to some of the food that you eat. Like, there's certain foods that I can no longer eat because of it. An example being spicy foods. Spicy foods really fucks me up badly, to the point that I basically think I'm going to die. I have severe abdominal pain because of it. And the theory is that it's an autoimmune reaction. And the idea with me is that I had a really bad reaction to my second dose of anthrax. And ever since then I've had a hypersensitive immune system. So it overreacts sometimes. Basically, I have an allergic reaction to all kinds of stupid shit. Is basically what an irritable bowels is. Basically, that's the idea. I don't know if that's really how it works or not, but that's the basic idea. The important thing is I don't wear fucking diapers. This one is by Mega Shadowrunner. I've actually got a rather interesting question. Do you think that Nintendo's apparent refusal to localize Xenoblade: The Last Story and Pandora's Tower could be linked to the perceived decline of the JRPG in the States? These aren't just any titles, there's some serious talent behind these games. I think it's a shame we haven't seen them here. But do you think the insulting connotations of JRPG and game media could be influencing Nintendo? I'm just speculating here. I imagine the reason is because the cost involved in localizing an RPG. And given the sales that they tend to be generating on the Wii system isn't that great, I suppose, or probably it's fine sales data. it would probably justify the expenses. It's just not as high as Nintendo wants it to be. I see a lot of people like talking crap about Nintendo of America. In my honest opinion, I've talked about this with other people in the game journalism world. I honestly don't think that Nintendo of America has any say whatsoever in what gets released. I think it's all in Nintendo. And everything that I know about the Japanese corporate structure tells me that all the power is actually with Nintendo. And they probably just don't think it's worth the expenses to bring it over. Another thing could be like we're seeing with the DS. It's at the end of its shelf life, and they're going to be moving on to the new big thing, which I guess is the Nintendo Wii U. So that could be a reason. I don't think it really has anything to do with a perceived hatred in the media of Japanese RPGs. I don't think that's the case. I think it has more to do with they just aren't having the sales. So. The next one is Welcome to the Solar System. I do not know what you are meaning, but hi too. Somebody else said, that's not really a question. Let's see. Kaitis Kitsio, I hope that's how I pronounce your name. Kitsio says, speaking of Akira, did you know that while Westerners see it and Ghost in the Shell as classics in anime, they're apparently pretty obscure in Japan? I don't think they're really obscure, from what I understand. They can't be obscure because they're based on manga, so they're probably not obscure at all, otherwise they wouldn't have been turned into animations. Juwan's888 asks, what new games of this year are you waiting for? I'm looking forward to the new Baldur's Gate, like everybody else, of course. I'm also looking forward to Battle Kid 2. I think that's coming out this year, maybe. There's a demo up on Screw Attack you should definitely check out. I'll put a link at the bottom here so you guys can check that out. Battle Kid rocks. I'm also looking forward to Disgaea 4. I am a huge Nippon Ichi fan, and I love their strategy RPGs. Difficult at times. Disgaea 3 wasn't all that hard, really, but I definitely enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to the new Disgaea 4, playing that one. Let's see. Larry Bundy Jr. says, you know I did the box art to Battle Kid, and of course I didn't know that he did the artwork. So that's pretty cool, Guru Larry. Eclipton asked me, are you into reading ebooks? If so, what genres? Honestly, I don't have an ebook reader, so I'm not a big into the downloading of ebooks. I do read a lot of electronically distributed books, I suppose. When I was really active on Authonomy, which is a site by HarperCollins. You know, I'm going to edit this down because that was way too long an explanation of what Authonomy is. What Authonomy is basically a virtual slush pile where people submit their books to HarperCollins and hope that they will reach the editor's desk by other users on the site voting on it. And I've had my novel, part of my novel, from my manuscript, originally called Twilight Chronicles, but now I'm going to call it Pandemonia Chronicles, so it doesn't have any association with this certain vampire novel, series of novels. But anyway, the important thing is this. I'll put a link down here in the bottom. You can check it out. You can read my thing, vote on it, comment on it, whatever. But I read a lot of stuff on there when I was very active in the site. I also read a lot of them on InkPop. I think it was called InkPop. It was the teenage version of it, basically where it was all themed at children and young adult novels. Now everybody on the site is kids, but I guess that the idea was to recruit kid authors, but adults can make accounts there as well and submit their manuscripts. And I totally did that because I write young adult fiction, or at least that manuscript that I was trying to get was young adult fiction. Anyway, short answer, I do, but I don't read them on Kindle. Edward Elric 555, you asked me some stuff, I guess they're more of statements, so I'll just skip to the question. What do I think of the Dot Hack franchise as a whole? I love most of it, but there are a few rough spots, you said. I guess I agree. I love the series, but there are some really weird plot holes in it that get a little bit more confusing as the series goes on. But I really love the concept of it. It's very unique, I think, and I'm hoping really to see a lot more fiction come out that has to do with people playing online games. I think that's a really interesting genre. Not so sure on the whole getting people's souls sucked into the computer because of a crazy artificial intelligence, but yeah, I'd love to see more .hack games. That'd be cool. I have a couple of the novels, and they're a fun read. Mega Shadowrunner asked me, so my question is, including your own opinion on the game, what are your thoughts on the negative stigma towards Final Fantasy XIII? Do you think its upcoming sequel will address some complaints aimed at the game? I like the game, but I know many were disappointed. I don't think a lot of the complaints about Final Fantasy XIII are valid. I will wait until I do the full review of the game before I explain why. It's very complicated, technical, and it shouldn't be something that's done on a spur-of-the-moment rant. There should be a script. So, short is, I don't think everything's fair. I will address it in the actual review. Hyperbit Hero asked me, which console generation do you think had the best line of RPGs? I would have said, like, oh geez. I would have said 10 years ago that it was Super Nintendo, Super Famicom system. Absolutely. Now, it is definitely the PS1 has the best line, in my opinion, the most awesome RPGs, at least for consoles, systems. Definitely. They had a huge library, and a lot of them were actually in English, so we could play them. But massive library. The Super Nintendo and the PS1 are the two biggest libraries, really. I mean, hold on a second. So, just an example of some of the Super Famicom, I should say, Super Famicom RPGs that came out that we have never heard of. Here is, God, how do I pronounce this? Bakumatsu Korinden Oni, which translates as End of Era Advent Legend Oni. Makes perfect sense in English, doesn't it? But this is a really cool game, actually. I don't know if you can see the background at all. I should really just pull my Super Nintendo out and get footage of this. This is a cool one. Then of course there's Wizardry. This one, it happens to be the Bane of the Cosmic Force, and then there was Wizardry 5, The Heart of the Maelstrom. And then of course there's the Aretha, the Super Famicom, which in a way kind of reminds me of Luffy a little bit. But anyway, there are tons of these. I got a bunch of these things sitting in storage, and they're all Japanese only. They were never released outside of Japan. And when people talk about the Super Nintendo, it's like, oh yeah, there's only a handful of good RPGs for the Super Nintendo, but they're all amazing, right? Well, there's actually a huge library of them. The problem is that they're just, Japanese only. but yeah, to answer your question, PlayStation 1, and then the Super Nintendo, largest library console RPGs. Okay, now we're going to switch over to the uncensored video and the comments that are posted in there. I'm going to focus on the ones I haven't already addressed in the comment section of that video. Let's start with attritive. This isn't really a question, it seems to be more of a statement. By the way, to Carey, I'd like to see more of your broad analysis of the gaming industry or of game design. I enjoyed your take on and definitions of the different types of RPGs, and I enjoy more of that sort of content. Something that gets to the heart of what you think is right or good with gaming, bigger issues. I think you have a good, unique take on that sort of thing. Well, thank you. I try to make the show a little bit more different than other reviewers out there by talking a bit about the mechanics and game design theory. I want to shift more toward that because I think that's where my strong point is. Some people don't like the humor as much, but I think I should just work harder on the humor when I do the live action segments and make the humor as good as my discussion about game design. I hope I can do that and make that happen. But thank you. I'll continue to try to do more stuff where I talk about game design and not just doing game reviews, which I really think has more of a niche audience, but helps get people to see and see the show more. And I'm really doing the show because I want to talk about different ideas with game design and get people to think about these games not just as mindless entertainment, but as art products. And I hope that my next review, Dragon Age Origins, I'm going to talk a little about that, and I hope that people will enjoy that perspective. So, let's go on to another one. Big Game Freak asked me, you said you were a game designer on your website and in a video or two. Could you give us a download link to any games you have completed or perhaps took part in? I've got a couple different games I've designed completely by myself. None of them are really available yet for download. I have a tabletop RPG system. I'm not going to say what the name is. I don't try not to say the name because somebody will steal this name. This is an awesome name. But I have a system that I've created. It's taken me about, I've been polishing it, I would say, for at least 3 years. It started out as being an OGL, Open Gaming License game. That was just taking the D20 Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 system. I've heavily modified it over the years. For example, it no longer uses D20. It uses 2 6-sided dice. And the reason I switched to this mechanic is primarily because I think it makes it more accessible to gamers. You don't have to go down and buy a 20-sided dice. There's a couple other reasons as well, but I'm not going to get into it. The only thing that's really retaining at all from D20 anymore is the skill system and the idea of feats, but I've dramatically changed how feats work exactly. For example, you have a certain amount of feat points that you get per level, and different feats have different values of points that they cost to buy. The really good ones cost more feat points to buy than the crappier ones. I think that's better balances the feat system in D20, because it used to be, you know, the really good ones are just cost as much as the really crappy ones. So there's just this huge amount of bloat in the book, and nobody, takes the crappy ones, they all take the good ones. This should encourage people to experiment a little more, because they have now a feat budget, basically, to customize their character with. But there's more things like that. I have, there's weapon skills now. Instead of just always hitting something with a sword, you can do like a special attack with your sword, which I guess is kind of like 4th edition. The same design philosophy, at least. Mine's a little bit different. You can get ranks in the skills, and then increase the power of the skill and the accuracy. But it's the same idea. It's really hard to balance D20 because the warriors just swing with weapons, and the mages have ungodly amounts of spells and can basically, build castles if they customize their character correctly. They choose the right spells to memorize. They're basically like Batman. They can do anything once they get to a certain level. And the only way to really compensate, not compensate, but to make that more fair for fighter and melee class characters, is so that they have a certain number of special abilities themselves that have utility not just in battle but also outside of battle. And that's what I try to do with the weapon skills. So the point is that I have a tabletop RPG system that I've been working on. It's nowhere near ready yet for release. It's probably ready now for playtesting, but they need some tools. I have a belief that the next big RPG that, at least is going to hit the market, is going to have huge number of app support, because a lot of people don't want to do the number crunching anymore. And when you have to do the number crunching all in your head, it also limits the flexibility of the algorithms that you can play with. So they're a little bit more simpler than they could be. So there's a lot of app support that I want for my game, and I no longer have someone working on apps for the game. I need to find someone else to do it because it didn't work out so well. What can I say? Some people are not reliable employees, and I'll leave it at that. Other games I've worked on, Crew Interactive's Nexus: The Kingdom of the Winds. I was basically an intern, volunteer game designer. Started out reading the feedback forums. Basically, the players would submit their ideas to the game, and I would read them and compile them into a list for the head game designer, and I would say, these are basically what people said, and this is what I think about the ideas. And these are possible ways that they could be implemented into the game. And a lot of the submissions, I think, were rejected, if I remember correctly. Most of them were rejected, but some of them also made it into the game. And so basically my job was basically to take the rough idea of the players and explain what they were trying to say with it, and real bite-sized chunks for the lead designer so he doesn't have to waste his time trying to figure it out himself, and also come up with possible ways to implement these features into the game. I also did a lot of playtesting of new quests and maps. I helped design some quests, and I wrote some of the flavor text for the quests and stuff to put on the website. And I also assisted with the design of new combat features. I had a lot of other things I proposed as well, but they were not implemented, unfortunately. I left the company after about working for maybe 6-7 months because it didn't lead to a paying job, so I needed to devote my time elsewhere. That's the only real industry credit I guess I have. I've also designed card games. 2 different card games. I'm working on another one right now, actually. I've got the rule set. I think it's pretty balanced by now. I have an artist working on the artwork for it, so that'll be fun. I'm not really doing the card game like to try to make money. I don't think I'm going to beat Magic at all. This is mostly just for fun, and because I think it's cool, and you know, to get more industry credits. And maybe that'll lead to refining my understanding of game design and theory that I can make better reviews, or possibly lead to making better games of my own in the future. So there's also a Flash game for G-Kaiser we're working on, but I have to switch programmers now, different programmers. So, but anyway, you can't really play anything that I've worked on except for Nexus: The Kingdom of the Winds, and honestly, you probably won't like it. It's a very old game. Does not have the support that it really should have. I'm going to withhold my thoughts on that game until I eventually get around to reviewing it. Maybe it's probably not going to be like a review. It's more going to be a discussion of the place that game has in the history of computer RPGs, because I think it has a pretty important place in that history, since it was one of the earliest massively multiplayer online RPGs that had graphics. So that took a while to answer.